Caucus comes up, and what do you know? Pete Buttigieg, he posts on Twitter at 9:24 before any other candidate has results of the campaign, and he literally says, "Iowa, you have shocked the nation. By all indications, we are going to New Hampshire victorious. Hashtag Iowa Caucuses." And literally, no other candidate had the results of the caucus. So that was pretty ridiculous and very suspicious because, I mean, that's just a very strange coincidence.
And you can see why he did this, because I'm assuming he did this because he had his internal numbers of his campaign and his supporters. And Bernie had that too, and Bernie's internal numbers showed that Bernie was winning. But, you know, there's a reason why Bernie wouldn't, well, other than he has integrity, you know, and not, you know, say I won without any actual results. Who knows who they're going to get, how they're going to get covered by the media. If Bernie would have came out early and said, oh, I won because his internal numbers show it, because they did, would he have gotten the media coverage? No, they would have been like, oh, the final numbers aren't released. But no, if Buttigieg does it first, that's why he's not a dumbass. He knows this. He knows CNN and MSNBC are going to cover, oh, Buttigieg so far is leading. And that's what they did for how many days did we not know the results? Like,
dude, it was literally like Friday. Like yesterday was when they had like some idea of who won and like what the final numbers was. And I still don't even. Yeah, I still don't even think they know. Like
99% reporting still.
So
that's the whole frustration with the whole Iowa caucus. Like that's definitely why we're all pretty pissed off.
So what happened was when Pete Buttigieg tweeted that he was victorious, that he won the caucus. Again, it was before any other candidate had results, but his tweet was based off his internal campaign reporting their internal results. And you can look at this on the Pete Buttigieg website. It has all the data from when he did that. But the thing is that there's no like sums or totals of all the data. They just have it all reported individually. So you literally can't even see like results. You just see the results of each precinct, but you don't see like totals of all the results. You don't see how many precincts were counted. But there was a German Lopez at Vox. He actually, when he reported this, he came to the conclusion that the amount of precincts they did cover was 75% of the precincts. And it just gave Pete 22% of the first alignment of votes. And if you don't know, the first alignment is people's first vote. And then if a candidate doesn't make the cutoff, what they do is they go to the second alignment vote where they allow people to change their vote. And then after that, they do the percentage of the delegates based off the popular vote. So in the 22% voted for Buttigieg in the first alignment, 25% voted in the final alignment, and he got 28% of state delegates, and that's what he reported. But in his data that his campaign showed him, it only reported his results. It didn't report any other candidate's results. And so after this, the Bernie Sanders campaign, they noticed that Pete Buttigieg obviously declared victory because that's a pretty obvious tweet, like everyone's gonna see that. And they released 40% of their internal results, and then a few hours later they released another report of 62% of the results.
And Tristan, speaking of these results that they are reporting, do you want to mention the satellite precincts and how that goes into their decisions to report only these specific districts?
So yeah, when they report the Bernie Sanders campaign reported 60% of their results. So what happened was the Sanders campaign reported 40% of the results. Then the Iowa Democratic Party leader, I think, he released the 62% of the results. 62. And then the Sanders campaign later released the 60% of results. But the thing is that when you look at it, there was satellite caucuses or satellite precinct locations for the caucus. And I believe they were for first-time voters, so mostly people of color or mostly impoverished communities, or also recently documented people, and as well as precincts made to ease the burden on people who have other obligations and who have a hard time reaching the polls on election day. And majority of the results from these specific precincts heavily voted in favor of Bernie Sanders, and the 62% of the poll results that were released at the end of the day of the caucus did not count these precincts at all. So,
and how do we? How do we know why they released it in the order they did? There's nothing. I researched. There's nothing. No explanation. No transparency of why they 62%, then 72%, and they stop. It slows down when Bernie starts ticking up. I mean, at some point you got to start questioning. Oh, maybe something is going on here, and I mean, they're not even good at trying to hide it.
No, it's like they're stalling, right? It's like they just kind of like I remember they left like Polk County or something like that, like for last, and
Polk
I think
and Black Hawk, yeah.
Black Hawk County, and like those are, I mean, I think Polk specifically is supposed to be like a county that's like, goes for Sanders, probably mostly for Sanders, and they left that one out. Like they said that the representative like sent over the votes, but like they didn't get picked up until days after, and it's like, these are things that are usually taken care of in like a day, right? Like in other primaries, it's like the same day, like it gets done.
Right, and maybe part of the explanation of this, speaking of a lack of transparency, is this shadowy app.
Shadowy app.
Shadowy app.
Shadowy app.
Pun intended.
Definitely shady.
Yeah, so do we want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, okay, so yeah, they had the shadow app, but they were the reason why this was so suspicious was not only the shadow app, but they were literally, like, there's this guy, Cody Smith, on Twitter at Mr. Neat95, and he reported that his precinct wasn't being reported, and that the results of his precinct was that they have 3, potentially 4 delegates for Bernie, 0 for Pete, and 3, 3, and 3 for Sanders, Warren, and Klobuchar.
Now,
and
why
they didn't
would
report that.
The app not want to report a loss for delegates for Pete?
So yeah, so basically they don't want to do this so they can push the narrative for at least a day or two, because by the time that the results are all in, like the momentum is gone, they'll move on to a new state, and it'll already be like, oh, we already covered
the media forgets about it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like to push the narrative, even if it's not true.
Yeah, don't trust the media. And don't trust the people that are in charge of the primary now. Like, don't trust the Iowa Democratic Party is what I'm basically taking away from that whole process.
Yeah, and you can call us conspiracy theories and all of that, but there's actual proof. I mean, this blew up.
Yeah.
They saw in the Black Hawk County that the Iowa Democratic Party released the numbers for that county, and then someone fucking corrected them on Twitter. Twitter has to be the freaking hawk of, if they're giving the right information.
Gonna be the one doing the corrections. It's like, really, Twitter? Like, but I guess, right? And it's like what you said, it's exactly that. Like, you're not even thinking about like, oh, maybe it was this, maybe it was this. Like, just state the facts in order, and like, you'll see what sounds suspicious. It's like, Buttigieg's campaign like funds the application that just turns out to be the shadow app, which,
in addition to being staffed by some former members of the Clinton
campaign, all these people who for us as Sanders supporters, like, we see these people, we're like, oh, those guys, like, they definitely don't have our best interests in mind. Like, so they definitely shouldn't be spearheading that whole process of which we should all be included. Voting, that's all of us. Like, everyone's got to vote. So you can't have that. That's definitely a conflict of interest. People have pointed that out for days now.
So Status Quo also reported at one point that during the caucus, the Iowa Democrats were even giving Bernie's votes on accident to Tom Steyer, and I think his name is Patrick Duvall or something. Honestly, nobody knows his name.
Nobody knows that guy.
I've never seen his campaign. I've never seen volunteers for his campaign.
Watch out, guys.
He's coming
back.
So they were doing that, and like they got caught, and people were reporting it all over Twitter, and Status Quo reported it. And then on top of that, for the precinct chairs who were supposed to report the results through the app, vast majority of them didn't even get training on how to use the app, how to download the app. They just got like probably a basic rundown, and that was it. And then on top of that, there was a tweet by Polk County Democrat, Democratic Party affiliate. His name was Mr. Bagnuski. So in Polk County, he instructed his precinct chairs to simply call in the caucus results as they had always done. But during Monday night's caucus, those precinct chairs could not connect with party leaders via phone. Hold times stretched past 90 minutes, and when Mr. Bagnuski had his executive director to take pictures of the results with his smartphone and drive over to the Iowa Democratic Party headquarters to deliver them in person, she was turned away with no explanation. So
There's no defending that.
so,
dude.
I mean, it's just kind of proof, like, how can you just turn away the hard copy paper trail of the results if they don't fit the narrative? That's the only explanation. Like, come on, there's no other explanation for literally ignoring people's phone calls, having them wait for so long that they get fed up and they just do it the traditional way that they're always, because at the end of every primary caucus, what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to literally get all the results and package them a specific way and then take them to a headquarters and they count them. Like, I've worked for a poll, it's really simple. It's literally mandatory that one person from each precinct in the poll working station has to do that. So, I mean, I don't understand why there would be such a difficult problem when this is something that's been done for a really, 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 really long time. Like, there's no other explanation other than it's rigged, obviously, and they're trying to rig it in real time in front of us.
But the DNC would never rig anything.
And the thing is, so Bernie won the popular vote, obviously, over Pete by like a few percentage, maybe
6,000.
Yeah.
votes.
So
Yeah,
what
that's a
happened
lot more
was,
votes.
so what happened was there's even video proof. They were live streaming one of the polls, and since Bernie and this precinct got a similar popular vote to Buttigieg, one of the precinct chairs, I guess, they literally flipped a coin to decide who gets the extra delegate.
Yeah, I remember
They
you telling me
literally
about
flipped
that.
a coin, and
I
they're
couldn't
like,
believe that.
they're like,
He looks at it
he-
multiple times and
yeah,
flips
and
it.
and he flips it, and he's like, they're like, turn it over, and he just goes like he places it, and like it's so obvious.
Yeah,
and it's
there
like
should
people
not
were too
be-
polite in the crowd. People were too polite to say anything, so
You
just
know,
let it happen.
All
and he
your
gets the
political
delegates.
work, just like that. All the groundwork.
No.
It's the
Yeah.
fate of our country,
We
man.
don't
The-
even need
the-
an election. We'll just flip a coin.
Yeah, that might as well, right? There should not be that degree of uncertainty in democracy, you know, in people's voices and like showing, like, you know, voting and expressing people's opinions. There's not, no, you can't just override it like that.
We can get a four-sided dice so the other parties can be included too. They
Oh,
can finally have
okay.
an equal chance at the election.
Finally.
So let's move on to the Shadow app.
Yeah.
Wait up, look for the Shadow app. Their mission statement is build political power for the progressive movement by developing affordable and easy to use tools.
Oh, so I guess based off the Shadow
Mission
app, which is
statement.
funded by Pete Buttigieg, I guess that insinuates that Pete Buttigieg is the most progressive candidate in the race.
I guess technically speaking.
No, that's Biden. Remember, he said it at the debate.
Oh yeah, he did say that last night at the debate.
And it's so funny when Biden calls himself a progressive because it's just like,
I mean, I've never heard him until last night.
I don't think he
no,
knows
I mean,
It's like the same thing that he says, oh, I was involved in the civil rights movement.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
That's
When-
a lie, dude. You know, Joe Biden got a medal by what was it? A civil rights organization. He got literally a medal for his work in civil rights by a civil rights organization. And I think it might have been like a federal organization. I don't know. I had to look it
I
up.
mean, we can go to town on Joe Biden, but my impression on him is literally just like he's kind of just a careerist, you know? Like there was a whole thing about him like plagiarizing speeches and stuff like that, and like it just shows you kind of like he's just kind of only in it just because he just wants to. He's a careerist politician, kind of like that, like typical.
This is the only
Wants to stay
logical
in
next
power.
step for him.
Yeah, it's a logical next step from vice president to actual presidency, but we
Okay.
do not want that.
Okay, so let's the Shadow app. So the Shadow app, it was funded by Pete Buttigieg's campaign, but they also have a parent company called Acronym, which a lot of the board of directors or CEOs or something like that are Hillary staffers, and the Shadow app, the company itself, the Shadow Inc., their address is the same as Acronym, the parent company of Shadow Inc. So basically they're based in the same building, and they're directly connected to Hillary staffers.
So this is like just a shell corporation where they're not even trying to hide it.
Yeah, and so Vice and Motherboard, well, Vice reported on it, but Motherboard, they got a hold of the app and they put the .apk file on the internet so people can just download it if they're curious. But they put it on the internet, and then I think Vice had Motherboard, when they got a hold of the app, they gave it to 6 cybersecurity and expert app development experts. So they analyzed and dissected it, and they realized that it was just a joke. It wasn't even like what'd you say? Who said it? They put 600,000 into it? Or?
Yeah, so according to The Verge, this app, they only spent $60,000 on it, but earlier when Microsoft did this, they spent up to $1 million to develop election apps for both iOS and Android, but only $60,000 was spent on both apps.
Okay, so imagine this: $60,000 being put into an app which these experts described as it. So it was. They basically said it was built on top of React Native, an open source app development package released by Facebook. And another expert said the app contains default React Native metadata, and that it comes off as a very, very off-the-shelf skeleton project plus add your own code kind of thing. And he also said the app was clearly done by someone following a tutorial. It is similar to projects I do with my mentees who are learning how to code. And if they started with a starter package and they just added things on top of it, that's basically what it is. So imagine spending $60,000 on developing an app where you already use another platform that allows you to develop it, and you just do a tutorial and you just that's it. Like,
so they really didn't put any effort
that probably
into it.
cost like $10, dude, like of someone's work.
I mean, just look at what's happening.
I mean, I'm not an expert on that.
Just
but
like he said right now, the structure of our fucking society, I mean, we put millions upon billions on, you know, corporate apps and whatever they want to use, and when our democracy, which we have to use in order to change structures in our society, we put 60,000.
Yeah, it's a lack of priorities, dude.
And on top of this, the shadow income, the Democratic Party, was offered by the Department of Homeland Security to basically do a security check of the company and the app. So the Department of Homeland Security literally offered to vet the app to make sure, oh yeah, this is credible. There's going to be no corruption. They literally were offered by the federal government, and they declined it. The Democratic Party. So I mean, come on, $60,000 to develop something super simple that looks like a freaking child made it. A student learning to do this made it, and on top of that, they didn't even take the free vetting process offered by the federal government. Like, it all just leads to corruption and rigging of the results.
I mean,
no
yeah.
other explanation. There's literally no other explanation. And there's like reporters on Twitter, and they're saying that Bernie Sanders is a socialist, so he shouldn't be complaining about the results because that's what happens in socialist regimes and stuff, which is that's clearly wrong. And then there's other reporters who on Twitter who are saying like, oh, you are all conspiracy theorists, just accept the fact that Pete won. And it's like, bruh, you can't be, you have to have shame in yourself if you're going to be a reporter saying this stuff, because you're clearly not objectively reporting facts. You're just believing everything at face value. And let's see.
Dude.
You guys got anything to chime in?
I mean, all my thoughts are on that is like, it's definitely cynical what they're trying to do. They're trying to invoke the whole conspiracy thing like we were talking about, but it just goes back to the like disservice that the media does everybody, and that's exactly what you were saying, Christian, dude. It's like every priority that is kind of there's a misalignment of priorities. And so the democracy, which you're right, is the tool to change the ecosystem which we live in, the power structures and all that stuff. It's just like they make it impossible because of their lack of, initiative.
And unfortunately, we're here realizing this, we're here talking to you about it, but a lot of people around the country, as we can see with the polls, fell for this BS. It worked, unfortunately. Buttigieg's numbers went up So, we're over here giving you all the evidence is in your face. You can't deny it. Yet, millions upon millions of Americans sit on their couches, watch CNN, watch MSNBC, watch Fox, and they believe, oh, Buttigieg won, Bernie got second. Oh, maybe Bernie's radicalism isn't the way America should be going right now. And they have that in their head, and that's why Buttigieg went up in the polls. So this shit worked. And that's the really unfortunate part about it.
And real quick, the parent company of Shadow Inc. acronym, what is she? The CEO? Yeah, the CEO of acronym. Her name is Tara T-A-R-A McGowan, like Mick and then go Wan. I don't know, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anyways, she on Twitter is notorious for her tweets praising Pete Buttigieg like he's the godsend candidate. Like MAGA people were talking about Trump in 2016.
Some of those middle class liberals really like Buttigieg.
Yeah, and then she also is notorious for other tweets, basically talking down upon Bernie Sanders. And she's the CEO of the parent company of Shadow Inc., which shares the same address, which is funded by Pete and staffed by Hillary. And come on.
I mean, at least they wear their biases on their sleeve,